Hello everyone, this is Spoiler Lab and today we're going to talk about the mystery film The Golem. The story begins in 17th century Prague. An elderly man walks into a church and discovers the mangled bodies of the locals there. He tries to exorcise the monster that killed the people, but the evil entity tears the old man to pieces. A little girl observes everything that is going on. She is the only one who manages to survive her encounter with the monster. The plot of the film takes us several decades into the future, to a small Lithuanian village inhabited by Orthodox Jews. A woman named Hannah comes to a healer to get a remedy from her for preventing pregnancy. After returning from the healer, Hannah hides in the basement of the church to listen to a service that only men are allowed to attend. After the sermon, Benjamin, Hannah's husband, is visited by his father. The rabbi advises his son to leave his wife and start a new life with a woman who can continue his line. To which Benjamin replies that he will not leave his wife, and these words bring a smile to Hannah's face. But despite what his father says, Benjamin wants children. He enjoys playing with the neighborhood kids under the watchful gaze of their mother, Sarah. The woman invites Benjamin over to her house, saying that the children would welcome the presence of a man in the house. But Benjamin loves his wife and is devoted to her, so he declines the invitation and returns to his home. Benjamin believes that he and his wife can conceive a boy again, but Hannah doesn't want any more children because she is still grieving for her dead son. Before making love to her husband, she uses the remedy that the healer gave her. At night, Hannah sneaks into the attic where she secretly studies the Kabbalah, the religious and occult writings. In the book, she finds teachings on how to use magical rituals to create a human being. The next day, Hannah meets her sister Rebecca. The girls are splashing in the river and discussing Rebecca's upcoming wedding. Hannah notices them being followed by someone in a plague doctor's mask and tells her sister that it's time for them to go home. They pass by a pagan settlement that has been engulfed by an outbreak of the plague. The epidemic has claimed the lives of many inhabitants but has not yet managed to reach the village where the girls live. So, with no sense of the approaching danger, the Jewish settlement celebrates Rebecca's wedding. People are dancing and having fun until guests from the neighboring village come to them. The Gentiles bring with them a little girl who is sick with the plague. Vladimir, the head of the Gentiles, is convinced that it is the Jews who are infecting his village with their dark magic and killing his people one by one. The rabbi tells the man that everything is God's will and they have nothing to do with the deadly disease. But Vladimir does not believe in God or the rabbi and kills one of the locals. He orders that his eldest daughter be cured of the plague, or else his men will begin to kill every resident and burn down the settlement. The healer takes on this mission and asks Vladimir to take the girl to her home. The man orders no one to leave the village until his daughter is well. The men of the village gather for another meeting while the women eavesdrop on them under the door. The rabbi tells the villagers to accept the situation as it is and continue to pray without confronting the Gentiles. Upon hearing this, Hannah bursts in and tells the men that they must fight with their strength and use the wisdom of Kabbalah to defeat their enemies. The rabbi scoffs at Hannah's words. In his opinion, women are incapable of understanding the wisdom of the scriptures. But Hannah insists and offers to create a golem, a monster capable of killing all plague bearers and saving the villagers from danger. She wants to create the monster herself, but the rabbi harshly besieges her by saying that she is not even capable of bearing his son's child. While the men pray to save the village, Hannah visits her sister, who has been struck in the stomach by one of the Gentiles. From her injury, the girl has lost her child and needs to leave as soon as possible to another village to continue her treatment. Tired of enduring the injustice, Hannah decides to take the village's safety into her own hands. She breaks into the church, finds the Kabbalah there, and proceeds to create the golem. From unplowed soil in the forest, she sculpts the body of the future monster and places a sacred roll in its mouth, in which the secret name of God is written. At the end of the ritual, she puts a mold of the golem's body into the fire and falls to the ground motionless. In the morning, at the site of the ritual, Hannah finds the ground dug up, but the golem never appears. Deciding that she has failed to summon the monster, she returns home. Over dinner, she hears suspicious sounds coming from the attic. Hoping that it is the golem, she goes upstairs but finds no one there. Mysterious things continue to happen in the house. Benjamin's violin falls to the floor and he bends over to pick his instrument up and discovers Hannah's contraceptive. A quarrel arises between the couple. Benjamin accuses his wife of being obsessed with the Kabbalah and says that these teachings won't help her find the answer to why God took their son anyway. Before he leaves home, he repeats his father's words that Hannah's purpose as a woman is to bear him an heir. The next day, Hannah goes to the stable, where her horse is rampant. Among the hay, she notices a very dirty baby, which escapes from the stable at lightning speed in an unknown direction. Hannah decides to go again to the woods to the site of the ritual, but there she is attacked by pagans. Trying to escape from them, Hannah falls into a trap and is suspended by her throat from a tree. As she bids farewell to life, she notices her pursuers being killed one by an invisible force. The golem has come to Hannah's aid. The woman stealthily brings the devil child to her home and hides him in the stable. Meanwhile, during another church service, Rebecca's husband calls Benjamin over to him. He shows him a weapon and tells the man that he is going to fight back against the heathens. At home, Hannah tries to find more information about the golem. She learns that the monster can only be used for protection and can evolve as a human. Thunderstorms begin and she returns to the stable to give the golem her dead son's toy. She begins to see the monster as a normal child and thinks the sound of thunder scares it. Eventually, Hannah decides to take the golem into her house and scrub it off its filth. The healer walks in on her and Hannah brags to her that she has succeeded in creating the golem. The healer warns her that it is a ruthless monster and she must get rid of it before it is too late. But Hannah calls the golem a savior and says it is the only one who can protect the village from Vladimir and his men. It turns out that the healer is the same little girl who managed to escape after Golem's atrocities in Prague. Back then, the monster did save the locals from danger but also killed many civilians. The healer makes Hannah promise that as soon as Vladimir leaves the village, she will take the note from the golem's mouth and finish him off. At one point, Hannah decides to drown the devil child in the bathtub but quickly changes her mind. Instead, she decides to get him some clothes and goes to her neighbor Sarah's house to get them. In the window of the house, she sees her husband Benjamin chatting nicely with Sarah. What she sees angers her and her negative emotions are transmitted to the golem. This means that the monster is directly connected to its creator. After overcoming herself, she goes back into the house, where she is greeted by a boy with an outstretched toy in his hands. While Hannah was able to suppress her jealousy and go to bed, the golem had other plans. He sneaks into Sarah's yard and brutally murders the woman by slitting her throat and ripping out her heart. The next day, the villagers find Sarah's mutilated corpse and decide that Gentiles did it. Contrary to the rabbi's order not to be punished, the men of the village decide to confront the invaders. In an unequal battle, the men manage to kill only one Gentile. One of Vladimir's men knocks Benjamin to the ground and begins to strangle him, but he fails to do so because the golem enters the fray. He blows up the heathen's head and, at the behest of his creator, moves towards Vladimir. He shoots the boy, but the bullets do not harm the golem. The pain of the shots is partially transmitted to Hannah, but she bravely endures it. When the boy comes very close to the pagan leader, his daughter runs out of the house, cured of the plague. Hannah orders the golem to stop, and orders Vladimir to take his daughter and leave the village forever. The rescued villagers welcome the golem and worship him as if he were a divine being. Benjamin returns home and the three of them have dinner. At first, the man is wary of the evil child, but later he becomes warm to him and plays the violin for him. The music soothes the golem and the new parents put him to bed. After an afternoon of excitement, the couple succumbs to the impulse of passion and makes love. At that moment, the healer secretly visits them and tries to drive the golem back into the earth. But the boy only pretends to be asleep and sends her to the afterlife himself. At night, Benjamin wakes up and finds drops of blood dripping from the attic on his pillow. He decides to go upstairs and finds the healer's corpse in a trunk. He runs downstairs to warn Hannah and sees the golem in their bedroom, hiding innocently behind her back. Benjamin tries to convince his wife that the boy is a monster, not a savior, and that he killed Sarah and the healer. But Hannah does not want to hear the truth, because she already perceives the golem as her son and will not allow anyone to take her child away from her again. Benjamin runs from the house to his father and tells him that the golem is killing innocent people. The rabbi orders his son to gather 10 men to help destroy the monster. Meanwhile, in the Gentile village, Vladimir's daughter dies. Out of anguish, he gathers a detachment of men and they go to the Jewish settlement to kill every inhabitant there. At his home, Benjamin begins to play the violin, which affects the golem like hypnosis. To the sound of the music, the boy follows the men to the church, where the rabbi has already prepared everything necessary for the rite to exorcise the demon. Inside, the men recite a spell that gradually kills the golem. Sensing through sleep the pain of her creation, Hannah wakes abruptly and runs to the golem's aid. She desperately tries to break into the church, but the door is tightly locked. Pagans burst into the village and begin burning everything around them, killing the locals. Hannah is spotted by Vladimir and struck on the head with a burning torch. Her pain is instantly transmitted to the golem. The boy overcomes the effects of hypnosis and kills the rabbi and all the men in the church. Hannah survives, but Vladimir intends to finish her off. He raises an axe over her head, but the creator is saved by the golem, ripping Vladimir's heart from his chest. While Hannah regains consciousness, the monster completely loses control of himself. Not distinguishing between pagans and civilians, it kills everyone who gets in its way. Benjamin, who survived, finds Hannah and begs her to stop the chaos that the golem is bringing. He tries to appeal to his wife's voice of reason and tells her that the child is not their dead son and she needs to let him go. Looking around, Hannah sees the dismembered bodies of her fellow villagers. She kneels before the golem and tells him that she will always love him. Kissing the monster on the lips, she pulls the note with the name of God out of its mouth. The golem turns back into dirt, and Hannah, sobbing, throws herself into her husband's arms. At the end of the story, we see a surviving girl who finds the sacred note among the ruins of the village. This means that the golem will rise from the ground many more times. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel and like the video. See you all soon.